we'll try to print it again for you the right way, if that's difficult. But we're learning Derech Hashem, learning about the 13 principles of faith. We saw the first chapter where he goes over the basics. We had a nice discussion of philosophy and the various approaches to proving God's existence or not. And the Ramchal, as we saw in his presentation, tries not to get involved in the debate between the Rambam and the Kuzari about, where we know all this stuff from. Is it from tradition or is it from philosophical proofs? And but he says the end of the day is either way. This is what we believe. This is the way the system works. And then he got into quite a Kabbalistic interpretation. It's not on the board anymore, but based on the principle that he found in the Kabbalah, that why did God create the world? Anybody remember?
Because he got bored.
That's one approach. Yeah, that's not what he said, but
to share his goodness.
That's right. Because God is good by definition, and by definition, good must share itself with others. That's part of being good, is to share with others. In order to share with others, you have to create others, and that's us. An act of kindness, olam chesed yibaneh. Right, we mentioned that yesterday. Okay, so today we're going to continue that that theme, and I just don't have the first page, but we got up to the top of page 3, right? The purpose of creation.
Yep.
And that's what we covered, that right? Now we're up to paragraph 2, the nature of perfection, deficiencies, and the acquisition of perfection. Okay, so this is a principle. Also, it's mentioned already in I think it's in the Zohar. It's called Nahama de Kisufa, the bread of shame. Ever heard this idea before? You have? Yeah, amazing. What does that mean? Bread of shame. You could just get the door. It's a little bit disturbing. Thank you.
Men are supposed to, or have the inner desire to earn good.
That's right. That's right. Otherwise, if we just can receive gifts, it's very nice. If we need the tzedakah, we need the help. We'll take it, but we always feel a little bad. We don't want to be a receiver. We want to be a giver, like God. And so there's always a little bit of shame involved when we receive something. How do we avoid that? So let's read it inside. David, why don't you start us off? We're on page 3. That's paragraph 2 in the purpose of creation.
It's still fundamentals, right? Chapter 2, fundamentals?
Yep.
Purpose on creation, paragraph 2. So that's studying God's wisdom, however, decreed that for such good to be perfect, the one enjoying it must be its master. He must be one who has earned it for himself, and not one associated with it accidentally and without reason. In a way, this can be said to partially resemble God's own perfection, at least to a degree that this is possible. God is perfect because of his intrinsic nature, and not without cause. His true essence makes perfection imperative and preludes any fault. No other being, however, can have such a quality, where its essential nature requires its perfection and precludes all deficiency. In order to resemble God to some degree, it is at least necessary that this creature earn the perfection that its essence does not require and avoid deficiency that its nature does not preclude. God therefore arranged and decreed the creation of concepts of both perfection and deficiency, as well as creature with equal access to both. This creature would then be given the means to earn perfection and avoid deficiency. Having accomplished this, the creature could then be said to have made itself resemble its creator, at least to the degree that this is possible. As a result, it is then worthy of experiencing God and deriving pleasure from his good.
So, to summarize, the greatest good must be earned through free choice. Here we have another approach to the same idea we saw in the Rambam about free choice. And another reason to have free choice, right? The Rambam said, well, the whole Torah is based on, reward and punishment. There's so much in there. And of course, you have to have free choice in order to be rewarded for choosing to do good. And the opposite. Here, there's another reason for free choice is because it's only through what you choose that you actually earn. You deserve what you gain. And that's the ultimate good, to be able to be the owner, the rightful owner of what you've gained. And man's task is therefore to pick perfection and avoid all that detracts from it. You should try to be as good as you can, and when you do that, you will achieve whatever you achieve is going to be yours. It's yours not because God gave it to you, but because you earned it. In order to earn it, though, God had to create. Here it comes, an imperfect world. Was the world, God could have created a perfect world, that would have been much easier. But, right?
The nature is
Nature, right. We could have no illness, no cold weather if you don't like the cold weather, no volcanoes and horrible, terrible things that happen in the world.
part of the creation.
Right? Why?
It's part of the nature, but it's
Why?
not bad.
Why?
It must be guaranteed.
It's not bad.
So, to us, many times it feels like it's bad, right? If you have a child that's born deformed, or chas v'chalila, if you have an illness, you feel that's bad. I didn't do anything wrong. I just got,
I mean the nature itself. She's perfect. It's God created her perfect. Even like a volcano that it looks like terrifying, like it's scary. It's he create land, actually.
Right.
And so it's like the cold weather. It's also good.
Right, it must be. But for man, it doesn't seem like God created a perfect world. We have challenges, right? We have and so question is, why did he do that? Ultimately, it's in order to give us that goodness. He could have just given us, the it's like the school teacher, right? She has the prizes in her bag all day long. Why does she have to wait until the end of class to make sure that she should just give out the prizes at the beginning of the class, right? Well, she's just being mean. No, she's not being mean. She wants you to learn. She wants you to go through that exercise so that you earn it, and then the prize will be the same prize, but it'll have value. You'll have learned something. So here it's even more than that. Is that the end result is that your feelings, when you receive that reward, it's not just the feeling. It's not just subjectively. It's essentially different, because you're getting something that you deserve, not something that is just you're being gifted.
So you said that the greatest
Yeah.
good is acquired through free choice, so how
Correct.
It's
Correct.
acquired through
Right. The greatest good is something that you deserve, that you earned it, and therefore it's really yours, not just yours because somebody happened to give it to you or to be nice to you. But okay, and therefore now I'm going to want to jump back to the Rambam after reading the third paragraph. But Hirsch, can you read paragraph 3 for us? If you go to page 4.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, of course.
This idea of you stay in a place that you have like the good and the bad deficiencies, like the perfection deficiencies, and then you need to achieve. It's if you think about Adam Vahava, wasn't like deficiencies there, right? Because
What was the central tree in the Garden of Eden? Knowledge of good and evil. Why didn't he just make a tree of knowledge of good?
No, but
There was good and evil. That's the essential point. That there has to be evil so that man can choose good, and then when he gets the good, it'll be out of his own earning it.
But before he ate the fruit, he didn't understand what it's evil. So he didn't understand what's
Yeah, it's complicated to really understand what was going on there in the Garden of Eden.
No, but,
That's true.
Let's say
That's true.
literally.
Literally, the key, I believe, is that he was given a mitzvah. Right? Even Adam, Harishon, was given one mitzvah. What was his one mitzvah? What was his one mitzvah?
Take
Fruitful
care
and
of
multiply.
And even before that,
take care of the
do not eat from this tree.
Ah,
One
Right?
negative.
It was a one negative mitzvah. That's right. Do not eat from this tree. And see that? Even the one mitzvah he couldn't do, right? He messed up on that one, right? But the very fact that you're given a task, that implies that you have free choice, and that means that there's something good and there's something bad. Good is to listen, and bad is to not listen, right? So that's an essential part of the creation, where the Ramchal is trying to give one explanation of why. As I said, it's one approach. Not all the Kabbalists go in the same direction. It's a little more complicated, but I think it's a compelling understanding of why. And again, I should find the book. If You Were God, I'll just briefly tell you what the mind experience that the Rav Aryeh Kaplan devises. He says, imagine that there's an island of natives, totally separated from all of civilization. They're living in a very primitive world, and you want to give them a gift. You want to be nice to them. You want to bring them up. You want to do good for them. Now, if you just come and reveal yourself and say, "Oh, here I am God," or I am a nice guy," you know that they're going to worship you. They're going to bow down to you. This is the primitive nature. This is that they'll just and they will learn to be dependent on you. They will naturally just not learn to do anything themselves. They'll just if you start giving them shipments, they'll just wait around for the next shipment of food or electronics, whatever it happens to be. We find this throughout Africa still today. There's, when people are trying, it happens. There was a movie. What's that movie called?
The battle about this.
About the bottle of Coke, right?
Yeah, crazy.
I didn't watch the movie, but I heard about it.
I saw it.
I saw one.
The gods must be crazy.
Yeah.
The gods must be crazy. Something like that. And someone throws a Coke bottle out of an airplane or something, and they don't know what an airplane is, and they don't know, and they believe, wow, we found this Coke bottle, and they start to, what do they, worship the Coke bottle or something like that? So they become, the gods must be crazy. Yeah, I should see it one day. I've heard about it, but anyways, it's very similar to this mind experiment that Rav Aryeh Kaplan speaks about.
I saw one different thing. It was in the Second War, I think, or after in the Vietnam War, I don't know. The United States went to a place, and there was like a primitive tribe without contact with any other humans. And then, like the U.S. bring like a lot of technology and everything.
Right.
So after finish the war, the U.S. leave.
Right.
Military leave. And then they start to worship the military, like in all the things. Like they try to recreate the circumstances, and they try to imitate everything.
That's right.
Was
Right.
very,
Right.
very
Right. So based on this, this parable, it plays a little bit on a different theme, but the bottom line is that the benefactor here decides that he can't just reveal himself to the natives because they'll be overwhelmed and they will just become dependent, and he doesn't want that. He actually wants them to grow, and so he doesn't know what to do. He could show up once and then disappear, but then they won't have any guidance. They won't know what's expected of them. They won't have any teachers. And the short of it, and I'm ruining a beautiful essay. The short of it is that he creates agents, sort of like he plants some spies, some agents in the island, which slowly but surely, they become part of the society and civilization, and they have some guidance. Now he has to guide them, so he reveals himself to them sometimes. And I don't know if you're getting the message yet. Who are those agents? The people of Israel, the Jewish people, God created a special nation that's going to be slowly teaching the entire world to develop, to bring it up, to bring it closer to God, to bring it, to refine itself. But He can't reveal Himself to the entire world because then it wouldn't be good. So, but there's an element there which is similar to what we're discussing here, is that even to the Jewish people, he couldn't reveal Himself always because you first of all take away your free choice. If you saw God every day, of course you do everything right. If you realized that He was always here, then you wouldn't convince yourself, oh, nobody's seeing me, and you'd be overwhelmed by His presence, and you would never in a million years do anything, do any sin. But it's almost coercion, right? It's you're being forced. You're not doing it. There's no choice in the matter, really. If you're, it's like you see a fire, okay? You don't really have a choice to stick your hand in the fire. It hurts. You're naturally going to pull your hand out because that's just, so same thing. If you knew that, if you lit up that cigarette on Shabbat, there's no chance you would light up a cigarette on Shabbat if the bolt of lightning came out of the sky every time you lit up. So we can't have the immediate reward and punishment because that would be too obvious, and we become robots, and we wouldn't really have the free choice, which is the whole point. So it's a very fine line that He's developing here, how God wants to give us choices. So He has to essentially pull back the principle you might have heard of before called tzimtzum. Tzimtzum, means constriction. This is a Kabbalistic concept. Oh, we have a circle right here. But
it kind of fits.
it does fit, but so basically this is God, okay? Excuse me for the rough diagram. But now God's everywhere. So God fills up everything, every space. There's no room for man. He wants to give to something other than Him. You can't really have something other than Him. So He has to create a space where He's not there. Okay, so He carves out a space. You can't see it, so I'm just going to put a circle around it. Okay, so this is God, and this is the world. So God had to remove Himself from the world in order to give us our own independence. And then, of course, He's going to give to us. And so He has giving His chesed. He's giving us His good. But He does have to pull out, create, that's called constriction, that He constricts Himself instead of being everywhere and in all of His full force. Of course, it's a little bit of a tension here, because if He really pulls away totally from this circle in the middle, nothing can exist without God. God is life-giving to everything. So He's there. There's maybe a trace of Him there that's still there in the background. I'll put some dots, some shadow of godliness in the world. But and on another level, He's removed Himself from the world, and so we have some independence. We have some free choice. Now, within this world, we have to have choice. So there's going to be some good, some bad, and we're going to be able to choose it and earn, essentially drawing back God into the world, right? And making ourselves aware, and the entire world aware, that really there's godliness everywhere. Godliness is really we're all part of God, or inside God. Anyways, these are all amazing ideas that the Ramchal develops. We'll read a little more, but what he started with was that we have to have free choice in order to earn that good, and in order to have the free choice, God had to pull Himself back and not make only everything good, to allow that there's some evil. Right? If God is only goodness, there wouldn't be any room for any evil. So He has to allow some good and bad in the world, and then we're going to earn that goodness through our free choice. Okay, so let's continue. We're on, did we finish section 3?
Yes. Oh, no.
Paragraph 3, did I stop in the middle or something?
We didn't start paragraph 3.
We did not start paragraph 3.
We did not.
All right. Hirsch, you're going to read for us paragraph 3, or you're busy? You're busy taking notes. Okay, so Thomas, why don't you read for us? It's on page 4.
Page 4?
Yeah.
Okay. The Hashem Fatwana on the purpose of creation. However, besides
It's chapter 2 for the Amos. In the book, it's chapter 2, paragraph 3. Okay? Paragraph
Yes, the
3.
paragraph.
Yeah. It has a number. It has a number at the beginning of the paragraph.
It's other book. It's,
Oh, you're in the wrong book.
yeah,
Ha 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 ha.
it's other book.
Wrong book.
No, it's not the right book.
No
Ah.
problem, I have it. Okay. I
Oh,
thought
you
I
have the
was-
sheets? Wait, I didn't.
Yeah, I have it. Sure.
Thank you.
I thought I had it.
Ah. Yeah. You got to have the right book. Thomas, go ahead.
However, besides this creature that acquired perfection, being fit to cleave to his creator, may he be blessed from the angle of his resembling him. See that by his acquisition of perfection for itself, it come out that it increases its flying to him.
Clinging, right. So the reward is that you're closer to God by doing the good things, yeah.
Unto the hand of its acquisition of perfection and its cleaving to him all become one thing. For him that is existence may he be blessed is the true perfection, as we have written, anything that is perfect only relates to him, like a branch to the root. As even if it does not reach the root perfection, it's a continuation and a hot growth of it. And behold, the ending to perfection is surely his existence. May he be blessed. And any deficiency is only the absence of his goodness. May he be blessed. And the hiding of his face. So it comes out that the shining of his face may he be blessed, and his closeness are the root and the cause of all perfection that will be. And the hiding of his face is the root and the cause of all the deficiency. Such that according to the measure of the hiding is the measure or the deficiency that results from it. Therefore, one this creature that stands evenly between that perfection and the deficiencies, the dark growths of the shining and the hiding, standing itself with perfections, and acquires them for itself on its own. Behold, it attaches itself to him, may he be blessed, who is their root and their source. And according to that which is increased perfection, so does it increase in attachment to him, until when it reaches the hand of the acquisition of perfection. Behold, it reached the hand of attachment and cleaving to him, may he be blessed. So it benefits from his good and perfects itself in him and becomes itself the owner of its good and its perfection.
Right, so it's all about closeness to God. It's all about either God showing his face or hiding his face. You know, the word for the world is called olam. Olam comes from the root hidden. This world is godliness is hidden in it. We have to reveal it. And if you manage, then you reach all sorts of perfection. Ultimately, what you're going to achieve is revelation of that which was hidden. You reveal the godliness in the world, and that's ultimately the reward as well, because that's the source of all blessing, comes from his existence, from his shining of his face versus his hiding of his face. Right, we know this terms of God hiding his face in the section of the Torah which speaks about the rebukes that God says if you don't do good, all these bad things are going to happen. It says that I will hide my face from you. Hide my face, because God revealing his face versus hiding his face is what brings the good things or the bad things into our lives. Okay, is that clear? All right, sounds good. There we moved from the fundamentals of faith into some deep Kabbalah very quickly. That's the Ramchal. He was a Kabbalist, but he writes it so matter-of-factly and so clearly that we can even convince ourselves we understand what we're talking about. Right? Okay. Go ahead, Russell, section 4.
Okay, the main creature and the secondary one. And see, given that these different things of perfection and deficiency that we mentioned are in existence, and that the creature that we mentioned has the characteristic that is necessary, meaning the possibility for the two things and the ability to assess them, such that it may acquire perfection and remove deficiencies, and that it has the mechanisms for this thing, meaning to acquire this perfection. There are certainly many different components required in the creation and many relationships between these components before it can be successful in the purpose set for it. Nevertheless, the creature that was envisioned for this great thing, meaning to please him, may be blessed, as I have written, is the one called the essence of all creation, and everything else that is found in existence is only to help in a certain way or a certain characteristic for this purpose to be successful and to come about. Therefore, they are called secondary to the main creature that we have mentioned.
And the last one more line, and of course in paragraph 5, the main creature is truly the human species. Right? All the other creatures, taller, lower, are only there to fulfill his function, due to all the many different characteristics that are fitting to be found in them, as I will write about in the continuation with God's help.
So here say that the essence of all creation is the mankind.
Exactly, precisely. Very good. Almost the opposite of what my student was asking me the other day. I think I mentioned, somebody asked me, someone was claiming, oh, man is not an important part of creation. It's exactly the opposite. It's the whole purpose of creation. Man is the center. Is the of all the creatures, trees, oceans, lions, tigers, and bears. Exactly. All that, it's all for the sake of mankind. And the most important man, you all know, is who?
Adam Arishon.
No.
Mashiach?
No.
Moshe.
No.
Abraham.
No.
Me.
Yes. Absolutely. That's the right answer.
I was the.
It's Amos. Why didn't you all say Amos?
But I thought the essence of the creation was himself, God himself.
Yeah, but he made that creation in order to express himself fully, to share his goodness, right? So he created mankind. Mankind, of course, can be translated to each and every person as part of mankind. But and we're supposed to feel like the world was created for me. It's a mission in Pirkei Avot. Everybody should say the world was created for me. But the point is that it's called in philosophy anthropocentric. You know what that means?
Anthropocentric.
People-centered.
That's right. Well, the people are at the center of the world. Everything else is just, I won't say just, but it's all, in a movie, you see the Academy Awards, what's the biggest prize is for the best actor, right? Then there's another prize for supporting actor. Right? There's a lot of support, and then there's, of course, the people do the set, and people do the makeup, and people do the wardrobe, and people do all the stuff in the background. But the main actor is man, and this is not universally accepted. This is the Ramchal's approach. I think it's based on Kabbalah that there's a difference between the importance or the value in God's eyes of mankind. And don't tell this to the Pita, because Peta, is that what it's called usually? Peta, is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. I thought it was Pita, but
What is it, Peter?
it's what's it stand for?
It's like a
People eating tasty animals.
People eating taste.
People for the ethical treatment of animals.
Ethical treatment of
Yeah,
animals.
So
It's people that protect animal rights.
Okay.
And animal rights, I'm all in favor of. It's a mitzvah in the Torah. We're going to speak about it in the halacha class. You're not allowed to cause any undue harm to animals. But we're going to see that, according to the Torah, if you need to do experiments in order to further mankind, to test drugs, as long as you're not unduly cruel, that's part of in our worldview. The animals are there as helpers to man, as secondary, as of course without undue cruelty. But it's not equal value to human life and to animal or plant life. Some people, the same thing with the environment. They say, "Oh, we can't have any." Okay, I don't know. I have a good example. Cars. We can't have any cars because it's ruining the environment. Well, that might be true actually, because they're ruining the environment for people. So they might have a good point. But if the point is, you have to have a very clear value system of what comes first, and even within, once you have that value system, it doesn't mean you can go ahead and destroy everything wantonly, without any, not that anything else doesn't have any value. But the value always has to be calculated in terms of this very clear hierarchy. These are words which are very not PC. If anybody's listening to this on the YouTube or whatever it is, wherever it goes.
Progressives love hierarchy. What are you talking about?
Who does? So I didn't hear the beginning of the
talking
sentence.
himself, don't worry.
Oh, okay. In any case,
No, I said progressives love hierarchy.
progressives. It's just them. They're
No, no.
Who's in charge? Oh, whoever's
Anybody-
downtrodden.
anybody who likes it.
Hmm.
I don't get. What do you mean it's not PC? That makes no sense. It's a very.
It was just a joke, a throw aside comment. Let's not focus on it. The point is that at least the Rambam, it sounds a little different. The Rambam speaks about the different species and they're each creations of God, and God created them for a purpose. Not only that the purpose is to serve man, but for whatever reason, we can't understand God's ways. I mean, Ramchal says, I understand God's ways. I know, I've got a whole program. I understand the logic of why God created the world and why God created man in the world, and man being the centerpiece of creation, to whom he's going to give his goodness through this complicated system of having good and evil and being able to choose and hiding his face and then revealing it to those who earn it. And this whole system revolves around mankind. And the truth is, we do see this in the Rosh Hashanah prayers when we speak about Rosh Hashanah being a day of judgment for all of creation. And it starts off with being a day of judgment for the Jewish people, but really it's for all of everybody's judged for their purpose. But this is very anthropocentric. No question about it. Yeah.
The essence of the creation is to man worship God.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
To have a
That's what it sounds like.
relationship
Yeah.
with- But the most of the creation, it's like apart from God.
Exactly. It's a challenge. God made us. He created us and put us at the bottom of a very tall mountain. We got a lot of climbing to do to reconnect, and the world is called hiddenness, olam, hiddenness, and our job is to try to reveal that. He put us in a dark room and said, find the way to light. The light.
The mankind, they leave God like in purpose, like they don't want, they reject.
Well, there's an entire history of the world. Sometimes they come closer, sometimes they get farther, and there's different, It's a long, epic story.
It's a very small percent that actually seeking God.
Well, that's actually a modern perspective. In the ancient world, everybody believed in God. We're going to get to the Rambam's description of Avodah Zarah and the various religions soon. But obviously, the belief in God needs to be refined, and there can be mistaken. But the concept of everybody believing in God, we live in an age where there's more atheism than ever in history, and to us, it's totally acceptable that people that don't believe in God. But 200 years ago, 300 years ago, everybody believed in God. It was a God-centered perspective on reality. Everybody had that. Even people who were not very religious. Nobody really doubted or lived their life as an ideologue. Of course, there's always the heretics, the philosophers who, rejected on principle or in terms of their rational discussions, they came to the opposite conclusion. But the majority of, even today, 90% of the world believes in God, approximately, more than 90%. There's a website once upon a time I saw. It's called Comparative Religion or something like that .com or something like that, where they have percentages of what different religions people believe in, but the people that believe in a God, obviously they don't believe in my God and necessarily, but to believe in a God is over 90% of the world. So maybe it's changed in the recent years.
There's a huge gap between believing God and seeking perfection to be close to God. It's a big thing. It's a big difference, right?
It's a question of relatively, it's not such a big difference. In other words, once you believe in God and you know that He, the basic concept of God is that He exists, or has a moral values of good and evil. He sets the absolute morality. That's the rest of all those divisions are how to get there. That's just a small gap. I think it's a bigger leap to go from not having that perspective at all, like we were saying, not believing in God, not believing in man's role, to ability to have free choice. That's a bigger gap that exists. But once you believe in God and you believe that there's good and evil and that man's job is to do good, then you're 90% of the way there. The rest of the details, I mean, I'm presenting it in one way. Obviously, that additional 10% accounts for perhaps all the major bloodshed in the last 3,000 years. So I wouldn't make light of it, but there's still a lot of work to be done. But in essence, the core that God exists and creates the world and gives us a world, a task to get close to Him, to perfect ourselves in order to attain closeness to Him, and I think that's the lion's share of the work in order to reach our final conclusion of success one day. And it's true that in the last few hundred years we've had a backtrack. I think looking at the global scale, backtrack in terms of mankind and its ability. Yeah, globally. In some ways, the Rambam writes about Christianity and Islam that they were, in his perspective, they're agents of the Jewish people. If you remember our Arya Kaplan story about the natives on the island and having some agents, so he put the Jewish people as agents on this island to show people how it's done. They got more guidance than others. Then they made, according to the Rambam's thesis, these agents, out of their teachings, were created offshoots, subgroups, and they didn't have the complete story. They didn't have the complete, the same guidance and all of the mitzvot, but essentially they spread, and this was the Rambam's thought process. He said that the Islam and Christianity spread the belief in one God throughout the world in a way that the small Jewish people never did. And the rejection of paganism, of idolatry, was furthered by those other daughter religions, you could call it in some ways, daughter religions of Judaism. And so really it's all, in the big picture, it's all, as long as you're believing in one God and not worshiping idols and pagans, it's considered progress. So we're better than we were in the ancient world. What we've been talking is a very small, last 200 years. What's 200 years in all of history? It's
the people believe in God. Like I know many people that say, "I believe in God."
Yes.
I believe
Right.
in one God, and but they don't seek God. They don't.
Right.
They do actually very bad things.
Yes.
Very things that God like.
Right. I hate to break it to you.
So it's like the believing God and seeking God. I see a big
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, even
believe do bad things.
Even people that believe, doesn't mean you're going to keep everything, and do good things. It's true. There's a lot of work to be done.
It's not about belief, it's about action. But anyway, you said that the Rambam viewed Christianity and Islam as agents of the Jewish.
Correct. That's what I said.
As agents of the Jewish.
Yeah. Of this concept of ethical monotheism. That's one way people define it. I think the term was coined by Kaplan, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure exactly, but
It was worshipped by that.
Why would the Rambam
no,
consider
it was okay.
Why
It was
the
censored. It was censored, but
why would the Rambam consider Christianity to be anything other than polytheistic idolatry? Because that's what the sages said it is.
because it's all a question of perspective. If you zoom out, if you zoom in, of course, Christianity is not Judaism, and they don't believe in the God the way we believe in God, and there's lots of problems with the Trinity and the Jesus thing, and there's lots of course we have a tremendous fight against Christianity. But when you zoom out, and you see that the bigger picture of believing in one God versus many gods, then we're on the same team.
I can understand you in Islam as monotheism, but for Christianity.
So we're not going to have a whole class on Christianity now, but it really depends on the perspective.
I didn't expect this from Rambam.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Question.
Yeah, my question is about. I think it's a great difference. I mean, I don't know if it is, but I'm thinking about like the believing and knowing. Isn't it the big difference? Like really.
Sure.
Because you can believe in so many.
Sure, you know that,
and then you realize it wasn't right.
Right. This was the big problem of the Musar movement. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter founded a movement about 200 years ago in Jewish people in the Lithuanian yeshiva world. He was very upset that there was a lot of the scholars were put on a pedestal, and a lot of the students were being trained to study Gemara, but he was saying, I don't see that everybody's being a good person at the same time. The studying, their intellectual study, was not affecting their behavior. And so he founded a movement to address that problem. And one of the things he tried to overcome, one of the issues that he was dealing with, is how do we get all that belief in our minds down into our heart? Because only if it's really feel it, then it'll come into action and it'll affect you. Sometimes, they say that our necks are very thin and fragile parts of our body. It's very hard to get something through this channel from the brain down to the rest of your body, to your heart and to your limbs. It's a very thin channel. So there's a bottleneck here, literally, right? There's a bottleneck, and like the neck of a bottle, you have your own neck, and of course it's all imagery. But the idea is, for sure, belief is, you can say it, but it has to translate into a value system, and the value system has to be put into action, and there's still a lot of work to be done. It's not all about belief. But okay, we digress. Let's go back. We finished chapter section 3, right? Or section 4 now. Basically, we're saying that this anthropocentric view, now we're up to 5. Let's just finish off the chapter. I read the beginning of section 5 in chapter 2. Of course, the main creature is truly the human species. All the other creatures, taller or lower, are only for his sake, to fulfill his function, due to all the many and different characteristics that are fitting to be found in them. As I will write about in the continuation with God's help. And see that education and all the proper traits are mechanisms for perfection that are found for a man to perfect himself. And physical matters and bad traits are the mechanism for deficiency that we've mentioned, among which man is placed for him to acquire perfection. So there's a lot of, what do they have in the cages of the mice or the rats? Right, you have a wheel that they run on, right? It's for them to get their exercise, and so there's also there could be choices there for him to make or not. So we have these choices and the choice of man. We're already into the next chapter on mankind, chapter 3. Unfortunately, it doesn't say it on your page. Page 5, chapter 3 is all about man's free will and his two inclinations, the war between the body and the soul. And we're going to continue with this maybe a little bit.
We're going to chapter 3 now?
I think we're going to leave it for the next day. That's on page 5, chapter 3, yeah, about man, yeah.
Because I had a question before.
Go ahead.
Before we go into that.
Yeah, absolutely, please, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I just really recognize that it says in Hebrew, Bamin Enoshi. I like Enosh is not a term for man. And we also got Ben Adam or Adam. So my question is what's the difference between Enosh and Adam? That difference,
right?
Because they're both terms for man.
Correct. Correct. They're both terms for man. It's a good question. Obviously, in the Bible, we know that Adam is the term used in Bereshit Aleph and Bet, and Enosh was his grandson. Adam had a son called Shet, and Seth had a son called Enosh. So Ben Enosh is all of mankind. We say Adam is man, so mankind. You can call it from the father or from the grandfather. They're all part of the original, the beginning of the chain. In terms of usage, when we use Adam and when we use Enosh, I don't think there's a clear rule about the difference between the meanings. Right? What do we say in modern Hebrew? How do you say people?
Ben Adam.
Anashim. It comes from the word enosh, right? Anashim, ben enosh comes from anashim, right? Ish and isha, and the nun gets thrown in there. It's a complicated grammar thing. Forget about that. The nun falls out sometimes, but in the plural we actually throw the nun back in there, so it becomes enosh, anashim. And in the singular, it's ish and isha without any nun in the middle there. The aleph and the shin stay. One is with a hey, one's with a yud. There's all the different vowels, but it all essentially they're coming from the word enosh or anashim. Ish and isha are mentioned in Bereshit Aleph as well. It's not only Adam. Adam is mentioned, but also Ish is mentioned. Right, lezoti kare isha ki ish lukochazot. Other than being called Chava, first the woman is called Isha. So Ish and Isha, pretty basic words for mankind as well. Yeah.
Enosh, Enoch, that's a different.
Same thing.
Same?
So, well, there is another fellow that later on we have in Hebrew. The distinction is very clear. There's Enosh, which is written Aleph Nun Vav Shin, and then there's Chanoch, which this Chet, some people can't pronounce the Chet, and the Chaf is also hard for some people to pronounce. Right? Het is supposed to be guttural, right? Hirsch, Het, Hanoch. So the ha is very close to the aleph, which is it's no sound. It's not a consonant. It's not really a consonant. It's used enosh, and that's why you could get confused between enosh and hanoch, because they sort of both start the same way. The first. But they're really different letters, totally different words. Chanoch was one of the great grandchildren of Enosh in the Bible, if you look in Bereshit chapter 3. Okay. So two different people. And
a good way to envision how to pronounce these letters is this diagram that they use in articulatory phonetics. It's like basically it's like a side view of the head from the inside, and it shows the different places in the mouth or throat where they pronounce it. In the guttural, it's like here.
From
here,
interesting.
Here.
Yeah.
So the ayin and the het.
Ayin and het, right. Yeah. Right. The Yemenites save us, and they still pronounce it that way.
85% is correct based on classical Hebrew pronunciation.
As best as we can tell. We don't have recordings, unfortunately, from Temple times. What their Hebrew sounded like. But okay, to be continued tomorrow. I'm not sure we're going to read all the 10 pages that I photocopied for you, but we've definitely learned about a lot, sort of moved from the fundamentals of faith of God existence to the principle of reward and punishment, and the Kabbalistic interpretation of why God created the world. Continue tomorrow. What I think we're going to do is we're going to jump to the laws of Avodah Zarah. The Rambam's beginning of the laws of Avodah Zarah, it also appears, it's all in that first book of Amada. We're jumping around within the book of knowledge, the first book of the 14 books of the Rambam, where he discusses many of the fundamentals of faith. And what we did, this is going to be number 5. Number 5 is not to worship any other gods. That gets developed in Hilchot Avodah Zarah. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. We'll continue with Zrat Hashem tomorrow.